we used to always open with music, and John Cullen's Web of Deception series has gotten me I should do that again, but I mean, again, it's like more stuff to do. How are you, Charles? You are still in your remote location here, people can see.
I am indeed, and it's good to be here, even though I will say, without revealing precisely where I am, that it is so cold that I only went out of this place once for less than 5 minutes to do an important errand. And it's cold and dark most of the day.
Well, you're giving people hints, and we've got a lot of social engineers who like to try to figure out where you might be. But it's okay. It's an undisclosed location. You got a nice coffee machine there. Charles, there's so many things going on that we have to discuss today. Of course, we've got this COP23. I don't know, first of all, why they call it that, and what the hell. Joe Biden's not there, but we've got John Kerry making an idiot out of himself.
Well, that was an easy job. Even he could do that.
Yeah, he started out halfway there.
Halfway. I mean, it's amazing to me, and I don't say this as somebody who did particularly well in science and math, or decided to make a career out of hardcore science and math. But the people up on the taking victory laps for this COP28 conference in Dubai probably averaged a D as a mark on any science or math class that they took. I mean, the whole premise of these globalist forums are just beyond stupid. I mean, you start with the issue that...
What is it supposed to be, though? I think most people have no idea what this, including me. What is this? COP23.
If you don't know what it is, you're obviously not cool. That's basically this is what we do. Is the cool kids have gotten together and decided, because they failed math and science, that let's chicken little another issue, because we're talking trillions in potential grift here, maybe tens of trillions, and let's just go really quickly down a path of saying, look, this is an urgent set of issues. It's so important that I don't have time to put your pesky questions. Just give me tens of trillions of dollars, because Earth hangs in the balance. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? When you go through the basic math of this, without trying to get into complex math, only 30% of the surface of the Earth is land. 70% is ocean or water, mostly ocean, right? There's no model. The people who came up with the original climate model have completely disavowed it and said that it is, the conclusions that people are running around mouthing are not supported by the original work, and the original work of that model is grievously flawed. That's for starters, the high level criticism. Then if you want to get into the small pieces, the math, even AOC, who really on a daily basis is proving that she's dumber than I thought a human being could possibly be and have a job. But anyway.
You've never been on Tinder.
There's probably 335 million Americans. There are over 1 billion. I think it's 1.4 billion in China and 1.3 billion in India. 335 in America. Add the two in India and China, you're 2.7. Put on Indonesia, you're up at like 3. Okay, so roughly 3 billion people in those 3 countries, where mammoth amounts of energy are produced using coal. And indeed, in China, they're putting up one large new coal-fired electric plant per week. And this moron, Kerry, who, his life, he's talk about somebody with quote privilege. He grew up in a privileged family. He couldn't he couldn't handle being in Skull and Bones at Yale and then going off to be in and pretend that he was fighting in the military.
Swift boat.
He had the Swift boat himself, basically. And then he couldn't get a decent job. I actually have a friend who knew him way back when Kerry was just starting out, and Kerry was hopeless. He's just absolutely clueless out of college and law school, and he's even dumber now as he's aged. To have this moron get up there and try on for size and get kudos for saying, listen, people who don't understand why this is so important, in so many words, are beneath contempt. Obviously, it's important. And then he gets up and says, fighting climate change is like sex. It's 100% good.
What? What a weird thing for an old weird guy to say. Oh my God. That's just like.
Right. I don't, is it 100% good? Ask Tara Reid about that.
Right.
Ask
anybody.
Juanita Broderick about that. Ask the whole Me Too victims. Ask the people in the Gaza Strip. The Israelis who were just, so many of them raped and mutilated sexually.
Stories coming out today.
Right. The guy's an idiot. Kerry is a fucking moron. And to see all these SEALs, these people like clapping SEALs, saying, like Hillary Clinton, thanks for your great work on this COP28. I mean, it's just another fraud, this thing. It's a total fucking fraud.
Charles, he's over there. He's outputting methane. He's ruining the climate by,
he's an idiot.
Off-gassing.
Look, if these people, you have a lot more credibility, than King Charles. I mean, because of my name, I was hoping that King Charles would actually turn out to be somebody other than the person he is. I mean, this is a man, his great quotes are, I've always imagined I'd love to be your tampon, he said, Camilla. Yeah. What he talks to trees. And this guy lives in multiple palaces, flies in multiple helicopters and jets and fancy cars. And he gets up at this COP28 and says, the age of consumerism is over. And he flew on a private plane. The Prime Minister of England flew on a different private plane. And I think the Finance Minister of England also had to have his or her additional private plane. If these people who want to preach about climate change will lead by example. John Kerry, he has a gigantic yacht. He has multiple big homes that are financed by his second wife. He flies private everywhere. He probably doesn't stay.
Let's listen to him change the climate on stage, Charles.
Sounding the alarm bell, I find myself getting more and more militant because I do not understand how adults who are in position of responsibility can be avoiding responsibility for taking away those things that are killing people on a daily basis. And the reality is...
And look, the woman sitting next to him, she's even like, she's like covering her nose and stuff. I mean, this is immature to laugh at farting, but what an idiot.
Again, when you're talking about an issue that is not settled and not resolved, when you hold a minority viewpoint, as I would argue Kerry does, you shouldn't be intolerant of debate and real scientific analysis of things. But the proponents of this unregulated globalism and its many tenets, climate change, plant-based food, racist roads, living in pods, going down these crazy, giving away your personal possessions, succumbing to the whims of supposed experts like Fauci and Klaus Anal Schwab and this idiot Kerry and Clinton and and Biden, these other people. I mean, this is Jim Jones behavior. These people are asking us to drink the Kool-Aid, and I'm not going to do that. I don't think people should. People need to think through these issues and ask yourself, as in days after the death of somebody who I hope is rotting in hell, Henry Kissinger, ask yourself whether we're better off now thinking through what's happened from Lyndon Johnson forward, the Great Society, all these great projects. Are we better or worse off? Are minorities better or worse off? Are Americans better, or in a rich country, are we better or worse off? Are Africans better or worse off? And we're all a lot worse off for these fucking morons who preen around the world at fancy conferences at taxpayer expense, who articulate the need for ever larger schemes that are never audited, never policed. We never see where the money goes. But the one thing we do see is rising prices, falling job opportunities, falling chances to amass wealth and live a decent retirement in health and dignity. And I could go on and on and on. So, the COP28 needs to STFU. I don't want COP29, COP whatever. Just stop with this bullshit. And I hope that we have a real debate in 2024 between whoever's the nominee, it looks like Trump, on the quote conservative side, and if it's this buffoon Biden, so be it. Let's have a robust debate about the path forward in this country. Are we happy with the trajectory under this Biden and under Obama? Let's go back into history. Let's go back into exactly what happened under Eric Holder at the IRS and the Justice Department. When did the process of meddling in elections begin in earnest? And I think it began January 20th, 2009, days after Barack Obama, weeks after he said, we're now going to fundamentally transform America. Well, has this team done that for the better or the worse? And I would argue it's for a lot worse. And people in Republicans, people supposedly, ostensibly challenging this rot, are too freaking timid. They good on them yesterday for walking out of that briefing on Ukraine and Israel. Good on them for finally standing up. But then afterwards, Tucker had an episode where he I think he interviewed Tom Massey, who was voting against the Israeli aid to Israel on the grounds that we're broke. And Massey said, Tucker asked him, is this bill going to go through anyway? And Massey said, yes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely ridiculous. No American family could put up with this. And speaking of families, it's almost as if all of us are together in one really bad marriage. And instead of standing up and throwing the cheating spouse out and taking 150% of what's left, instead of doing that, Americans of both political persuasions are saying, the Camille Cosby approach, that makes sense. I'll just pretend that, Bill Cosby is, he's just a comedian and we'll get through this. And, I don't want the hassle of a divorce. Bullshit. We need a national divorce from unregulated globalism. It is
what would that look like, Charles?
And a poison. What it would look like is, first, there's a lot of steps and I don't know which one would come first. But one thing that we should do is just consider what our strengths are and our weaknesses are, and do what we can to reduce the negative impact of weaknesses and promote our strengths. So one of the weaknesses we have is that Americans in both political parties suck at foreign relations. We suck at it. Whether it's Bush, fighting the war on terror, or Biden and Obama, who knows what they're doing. We suck at it. We should just admit that, and we should cease funding all international organizations. Just stop it on a dime. We should sell our embassies around the world, and we should come back home and reacquaint ourselves with what America is all about. We don't need to have a presence on 140, military presence in 145 nations. We don't need to do that. We need to defend our own borders. We need to defend the principles that made this country great once, long ago. And we just stop with this bullshit. The notion that today these idiots are asking again, was it 60 or 80 billion dollars for Ukraine at this stage? And trying to sell the idea that if we don't give it to them, then that will cause the defeat of Ukraine. No, you morons. Ukraine was defeated in 2014 when we pushed eastward and we ignored what Russia had been saying for a long time, and we instigated Russia into getting more aggressive in defending its national interests. And they're going to do that, and they will protect their interests, and they have overwhelming strategic advantages against Ukraine and against what remains of the NATO alliance. So, we have to be honest. We need to realize that it's both established parties suck. They're both run by the donor class, by oligarchs, by near monopolists. There's no oversight, no effective oversight of government anywhere in the United States of America. And that has to change, and it will change whether we want to or don't want to. It'll change on an acceleratingly very negative trajectory if we come close to defaulting, which I fear we are now, ever more close to defaulting. Because you look at this government, we can't balance a budget. The last person to actually produce a balanced financial result for the country was Bill Clinton. That's ridiculous. And he did it in this manufactured bubble of 99, 2000.
Yeah.
That's the last time we did it.
What happens if the U.S. defaults, Charles? That sounds incredibly bad and maybe like something I can't even conceive of. What would happen to the average person?
Well, look what happened going back into history when Britain didn't exactly default, but when the torch was passed from the United Kingdom to the U.S. after World War II over many things, but the Suez Canal issue, the fortunes of the average English person declined precipitously. The value of the pound dropped precipitously. The ability of the UK to lord it over the rest of the world disappeared. And England has been a husk of its former self ever since. It's getting worse on a daily basis. And that could well happen to the U.S. I mean, I've been doing a lot of traveling for various reasons in the past several months. And when you travel outside the U.S., you can get better perspective on what's going on. But the reports of violence around the country, senseless violence. We have the idiots in Congress who say, well, if we just take away guns, then violence will disappear. Explain the knifings. There are knifings everywhere in the U.S. and around the world. Are we now going to take knives away? Is this a prelude? Let's take knives away because this plant-based mush that they want us to eat doesn't need to be cut. Is that what's coming next? I mean, it's really, where's Methuselah? Is he the guy from Washington Square Park we joke about and haven't seen in a while? Is he the guy who's the brains trust behind the buffoon's cabinet? I mean, it's basic common sense. If you cannot run your own house, your own personal situation, your own household, your own village, your own city, your own state, your own country, you have no business meddling around the world into fights, in certain cases, that predate by centuries the existence of this country. When you have somebody like Victoria Nuland, who should be in prison along with her husband, still working at the State Department, is beyond stupid. There's a person who has fucked up every single thing that she's been involved with in adult life. Every single. Tucker points this out. She was giving testimony on what we should do next in Israel and the Middle East. It's ridiculous. And her husband.
I don't know why anybody listens to her.
Well, they do. Well, they all are the same mindset. That's the scary thing. And then the hearing out of Congress the presidents of, what was it, Penn, Harvard, and some other school, was it MIT?
Yeah.
These people are. I had hoped that I could be of a mind to support the schools I went to. I will never give a penny to any of these schools again, which is great news for me and my kids. But I mean, I'm just never going to go near. I don't even want to go to my reunions. The garbage that's coming out of these places. And now we've learned recently that at Yale, my alma mater, undergraduate alma mater, supposedly 80% of all the grades that are issued are A's. And, why would you pay? It's like, it's like paying to go to Laureate University or to the Saudi Arabian School of Beauty. I mean, why would you give $75,000, $80,000 a year to send a child to a place where 80% of the students get A, and then if they get selected like Hunter Biden because of his strong candidacy to go to Yale Law School, you get to graduate from that place on a pass-fail basis. It's ridiculous.
It's a scam. But Charles, here's a bigger question. Representative Stefanik was saying to them, like, hey, is it considered harassment at Harvard to chant, genocide to the Jews? And they were equivocating like crazy. Why would they not just say, yeah, you can't call for the genocide of anybody, that's harassment? They were like, well, it's contextual, and if it graduates to action. Stefanik was on fire. She said, wait a minute. So if it graduates to action, meaning if someone actually commits genocide, then it would be a violation of policy? She made them look stupid, but it's amazing to me when someone refuses, when you're asking, like all they have to do is apologize or say, yeah, that was bad, and they won't. That's weird.
you see, the system, what I think I failed to realize, and others may have failed to realize, the system has been rigged for a while. While you were trying to build 3D cameras and sell them, and while I was in retirement or whatever I was doing, these goons who asked to be tolerated when they were in a tiny minority as communists and hard left people in the 60s, when they begged to be tolerated and when they shoehorned their way in, to every significant university, every significant credential issuing operation, whether it's awards, you name it, publishing. These people are of a like mind. If you look at the editors, the people in corporate media and academia, across these think tanks and not-for-profits, they vote 99% radical. And they are unbelievably intolerant, introducing this idea of misinformation. There's no such thing as misinformation. There's truth and falsehood. In between is opinion, right? And Thomas Jefferson and others thought the best way to siphon out between truth and falsehood was to have robust, open debate, right, to encourage as many viewpoints as possible. Not to say that Mike Bloomberg or somebody at one of these censorship operations can review every single tweet or social media post or email or whatever and say, no, that's misinformation and this is correct. And nobody no AI or any system is powerful enough to do that. And indeed, that approach is anathema to human existence. We should encourage humans to read voraciously, to study facts, to offer up different viewpoints. And out of this diverse set of viewpoints, hopefully we'll approach closer to understanding truths, and we'll single out falsehoods and criminals to be treated the way criminals and liars deserve to be treated. Unfortunately, it's the criminals and the liars who appear to be running or exercising the levers of power around the planet. This is a very disturbing place we're in right now.
Well, and a lot of people are saying, Charles, that there's been talk in Ireland. You had brought up Colin McGregor was speaking out against this. I think somebody had a fake picture of him getting arrested for something. I'm not sure what was going on with that, but a lot of people are saying that Ireland is implementing draconian censorship laws. And I heard something earlier that rings true, that this is kind of the tip of the spear for worldwide censorship of the internet. There's no doubt that we're seeing it here in the United States of America. And the way they do it is they sort of start talking about it, then they start acting like it's normal, then they start suing the crap out of anybody or putting them in jail if they can who resists it. And then everybody just says, well, yeah, of course that's the law.
Well, Ireland is a place with which I'm particularly familiar because long ago, at this point, I guess it's 26 years ago, I and partners organized the largest institutionally backed venture fund called Hibernia Capital Partners, which brought around 100 million euros into Ireland at a time when that was a meaningful amount of money. So I understood the appeal on paper of the Irish miracle. And instead of becoming the tolerant, remember, Ireland is a downtrodden place. Its history is not great going back millennia, let's put it that way. And, it's a place where there are more people of Irish descent living outside Ireland, many more, than live inside Ireland. Ireland has been one of the prime beneficiaries of the EU and of unregulated globalism. And so, when they're begging for help or seeking outside investment, they're warm and open-minded and tolerant. Now, having followed a ruinous course of allowing people who have no interest in historical Ireland and every interest in possibly reducing Ireland that we all knew to rubble, encouraging refugees to stream into that country and not assimilate. This is a very dangerous place. And indeed, I've been following this for a while, and when I talk to some people who are prominent Irish Americans who I know from past work in '97 and afterwards, they gave up on Ireland years ago, before 2016. They said it's a lost cause.
Wow.
The lost cause that we see now playing out in Ireland to be the United States of America, because this is the path we're on now.
Wow.
Right?
Well, Charles, let me stop you there because we've got to make our shift here to the First Amendment Forum, where we're going to talk about this even more. People are going to be able to join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Brad is telling us here on YouTube that you get 12 months in jail for hate speech on the internet in Ireland. Interesting.